Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Let's go ahead and talk about my reading plans for the month of September. And the first book I have to mention, and I have mentioned many times in these TBRs, is Memories of Ice by Stephen Erickson. This is book 3 of Malazan Book of the Fallen, and I do plan on finishing this before August is over, but just in case I don't, it should be just a little bit bleeding over into September. But my real plan is to have that finished before. It's currently August 25th, so I have a couple more days to knock it out. I have about 35% of that book left, but it's the only thing I'm reading. I'm kind of giving it all of my attention, and so I'm hoping that it doesn't eat into any of my September reading plans, because the rest of my September reading plans are full of books that were highly anticipated new releases for me. And so let's go ahead and mention the big one off the back. This was one that I had planned on reading in August, but with vacation kind of destroying my TBR, I made a video about that if you're interested. That would be The Mercy of the Gods by James S. A. Corey, the author of The Expanse. This is probably my second most anticipated read of the year, just behind Winds and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, book 5 of Stormlight. And so I was really sad that I didn't get a chance to get to this in August when it first came out. And I have heard some mixed things about it, so that makes me even more nervous about it. Some of the things I've heard I think will make me like it more than the people I've heard the negative opinions from. Not that their opinions are invalid or anything, but there just aren't normally things that bother me as much. I think this is a little bit more of a science fiction book than like a character-driven science fiction book. So I think it maybe relies a little bit more on the hard science, and that's not normally something that bothers me too much of my science fiction reading. So I'm looking forward to getting to it. Even if I don't like it, it's fine. I'm just really excited for it. I loved The Expanse, so like anything they were going to write is something that I was going to get to. Then we have a book that I feel like I've been waiting on for an extremely long time, because the author announced that he had finished this book like way back in January, or even earlier, maybe it was like last year in 2023, and he had it finished. So it's been a long time coming, but that would be Not Till We Are Lost by Dennis E. Taylor, and this is book 5 of the Bobbyverse. If you're not familiar with this series, it is kind of think of like a Project Hail Mary, The Martian kind of science fiction book, where there's like humor and it's a little bit lighthearted, but there's still enough science kind of mixed in to fill in that niche of it actually being science fiction. And this is, like I said, book 5. So this is a series that I'm already deeply involved in and really care about and really like. I think book 4 might have been my least favorite of them, but it was still a really good book. It's still a really great series. And so the fact that we are finally getting one, I forget exactly when, I think it's September 10th or 6th, something like that, it is coming out. I'm very excited to see what is going on with the Bobs and their growing universe. It should be a really good time. And like I said, it's one I've been waiting for, because I would check Dennis E. Taylor's blog to see if he had any updates on it for, months at a time. And the last one was always, he had turned it over to Audible and was just waiting. So really excited for this one to finally come out. And there are some people I know who are also very excited. So I know I will be talking with them whenever they get around to reading it. Next is another book that I had originally planned on reading in August, because that is when it came out. And that is The Book of Elsewhere by Keanu Reeves and Chiana Mieville. I've heard some mixed things about it. I think somebody I watched, they actually ended up DNFing it because of the writing style, and they didn't enjoy that too much. But this is still kind of one of those ones. It's like such an interesting mix of people, the actor and the writer coming together to do something. And I do also know that it's, now that I know this, I didn't know this originally, this is based off a comic series Keanu Reeves has. So apparently some of the world and stuff has already been built up in another medium. I'm not sure how that's going to translate. That can always be kind of a difficult thing to get right. But I can't say this is an anticipated read, but this is definitely one that I was super curious about when it was coming. I think it has to do with a soldier who, he wants to die, but he's so advanced that he can't. And so he's kind of on a last mission, because they say if he completes this mission, they can, end his suffering, basically, I think is the general premise of that one. So it could be really good. It could also be bad. I'm not sure. This will be my first exposure to Chiana Mieville, which I don't think it's fair to him as an author. I don't think this is probably one that his fans would be yeah, start here and then, read the rest of his stuff. They would probably want to read something that he's alone touched and created. But I think it's at least a little bit to get my toes wet and, figure out what's going on with him as an author before I maybe try to read some of his other stuff. Another thing that I had planned on reading in August, man, this is almost my August TBR again. I didn't realize that when I was putting it together, but these are just kind of the things that I am the most excited to get to. And actually, I'm going into this book with a little bit of trepidation, because I did not enjoy the second book of this, and that would be, the book I'm talking about is Impact Winter, and it's season 3, and that's by Travis, I always say the last name wrong, Beecham, something like that. And the reason it's called season 3 is this is kind of like an Audible exclusive, where it almost feels like it's a radio show more than an actual book. but it's on Audible and I'm counting it as a book. So season 1, I really liked. I thought it was a great vampire story. That's the general premise here, is there are vampires, and it's post the vampires coming out and kind of taking over the world. And season 1 was great. Season 2 I had a lot of issues with, and some of that was revolved around the audio experience itself. A lot of very annoying, like wet kissing noises that just drove me crazy to listen to, and happened multiple times throughout it. And then the story itself wasn't good, so it's kind of a mix of things that made me not enjoy it as much. But for whatever reason, I'm still hopeful that season 3 has a chance to be good. We'll see. There was a plot twist at the end of 2 that makes me think that 3 won't be that much better. But I'm still on that high from the first part, so this is kind of its last chance to really woo me and see if I want to continue on with it, because it comes with the Audible subscription, so I'm not paying anything extra for it. So that's probably really the only reason I'm getting around to it as quickly as I am. But it is a shorter one, so I just want to see what's going on there. I don't want to give up on it just yet. And then speaking of something shorter, and this is not something that was on the August TBR, is The Gallant, and this is actually a novella that takes place before the Wars of Light and Shadow series starts, and I was actually lucky enough to get this sent to me by Janie Wertz herself, and I'll go more into that when I do my wrap up later this week. But I don't actually know exactly how long this is, so this one is a maybe, I should say, because it'll just depend on how I can get it to fit in with my other reading. And yeah, I mean, any chance I get to be back in that world is something I'm going to enjoy. So we will see. Like I said, if it's really long, I might push it, or it won't be a super high priority for this month. But if it's really short, I'll probably be able to finish it, and I might even have room for more. So as always, I am a little bit of a mood reader. So at the end of my TBRs, I always like to throw in some maybes or things that I might end up reading instead of some of the things I've mentioned here. I'd normally stick to what I said as my TBR, but every now and again I just go wild. So the first thing I want to mention is Darren, which is the book 1 of the Empire of Salt. I think it's just a trilogy, and CF, I don't know. That's a hard one for me. But this is a book that Books with Benghis Khan, Ben from Books with Benghis Khan, kept telling me that I should read and that I would really like it. And he sold it to me so hard that I went ahead and bought it. And it is actually a pretty short book. I think it's only like 340-ish pages long. So it might be something that I hop into. I've had it just sitting over on a shelf I have over there staring at me when I'm sitting at my computer. And so it's been like in my mind, in the forefront of my mind. So there is a chance that I will start that. With no Malazan or any other real big series in my plans for this month, I'm tempted to start a big trilogy, and the fact that it's a trilogy makes it a little bit easier for me to try to fit in. But that would be The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. I cannot remember what the name of the whole series is called, but this is a book that I have wanted to read for a really long time. I think it's something I would really like. I've heard that it's really well written, the story is great, it's dark, and just so many things that I have always kind of wanted to experience or like to experience. And this is one of those books that I've owned for a really long time and just for whatever reason has never gotten around to. And I was scrolling through my Audible and saw it sitting in there, and I was like, maybe this is the month I get around to it, but we'll see. It is longer, so it would kind of depend on how long some of these other reads take me. I don't think Mercy of Gods is all that long. I don't think the Babaverse book is long. I don't think the Book of Elsewhere is all that long. Impact Winter Season 3 is really short. I think it's like 7 hours. And then, like I said, The Gallant might not be short. So there's actually a good chance that maybe The Forgetting Moon has a shot of skyrocketing up that list along with Darren. And the other one, this one has been like, if I'm feeling it at any point, is Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein. I haven't read any of his books before. This is one of those ones that I've heard mentioned a lot, and I know there's a movie, I know they're like completely different, but for some reason it's just kind of one that has stayed in my mind and I want to get to at some point soon. But those are all just maybes, so it'll just kind of depend on how the month goes, because if it was anything like last month, I think I'll probably get a book read, because my reading in August was not all that great, partially because of vacation. But like I said, I will get more into that as well in my August wrap-up later this week. But that is my general TBR for the month of September. Let me know what you're planning on reading and looking forward to in the month of September, and as always, have a good one.